25 minutes late. So I don't know. What I don't want to do is just have pizza arrive and get up and walk out. You know what I mean?
When the pizza's due?
25 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. And they haven't told you what they're doing?
Tab frustrated. Do you know what? I say we just get going. They're running really late anyway. Okay. Can I just get everyone to take the seats? I guess. It's just alright. How are you? Tired. That's
I'll just be an asshole. I'm an asshole American. This is how it works. I would be more brash than you.
Right, we good? Alright, cool. So, So, is everybody, can we just take our seats then? We'll get started with the next talk. Okay, so I don't know if anyone noticed, but we've had a bit of a speaker reshift. We had a bit of a speaker reshuffle tonight. So Simon came in early, like literally was one of the first guys in. I was like, oh, how interesting. We might do some lightning talks later. And we were like, actually, do you want to do a talk tonight? So he's kindly stepped in and is prepared to talk in about 20 minutes.
Yeah, well.
So please give him a very warm welcome and be very gentle.
Okay, well, I'm here to talk about RethinkDB and how it fits in with Node. Has anyone heard of RethinkDB? Good. Everyone seems to have heard it. Anyone used it? Yeah. Okay, very good. Well, let's see if you learn something new, whatever. So they call it the open source database for the real-time web. And that intrigued me when I came across it. And I've been using Oracle and Postgres and things like that for about, I don't know, 30 years, I think. And it was sort of a bit new, and I thought, let's have a look at this. And I was really quite intrigued what they meant by the real-time bit, because that's something I've always had trouble with more traditional databases. It's implemented in C++, and it's had over 5 years of development so far. And it is a NoSQL document-based database, but they say it's got joins. It has got joins. So that's actually quite interesting. So you can create tables in there, and whilst the tables are schemaless, you can actually make queries that join between them. And I find that quite a nice sort of middle ground between the relational database and the NoSQL world. They've done a lot of work to make it very easy to scale out and cluster on the cloud, literally in their web interface. I'm not going to go into that today, A, because I haven't done it yet, but also because it can get quite involved. But it is, you want to have all your shards and your clusters, you literally just click in the interface and it does all the heavy lifting in the background. But the real thing that I'm interested in is the change feeds, because this is a feature that's built in from the ground up in the database that allows you to effectively subscribe to changes in your queries, and without having to do any work, it just tells you when things are changing. I'm going to look at that in a minute. There are official drivers for most of the popular languages and some unofficial drivers as well for others. Installation, it currently only works on Linux and OS X. They say that there's a Windows version in the making, but who knows? I haven't seen it, but that's okay. And you download it either from their website, the normal sort of installer, or even they've done a homebrew thing. They actually even recommend using it. You just brew install RethinkDB. It takes about 40 seconds, and you've got it up and running. And even in the homebrew, it gives you a little instructions on how to set it up to start up each time your Mac starts up, by putting a little symbolic link in your startup items or whatever. So once I've done that, I've installed it, and I've never ever touched it again as far as installation is concerned. Now, it doesn't use SQL. It uses something called REQL or REQL, I don't know how they pronounce it, the Rethink Query Language. And it's quite different to get your head around, but after a while it's really quite nice, because it is like programming. It's all the functions are chainable, and you'll see, it's better to see it in a minute. And it's quite deceiving, because while you're writing if you're writing in JavaScript, it looks like you're writing JavaScript functions. You've got to remember that all the code actually does run on the server, so it is literally, you think it's running on your machine because of the way it's constructed, but they actually upload what you've written and execute it on the server. So I don't know how it's going to look on size-wise, but just a bit of JavaScript here. On the Node side, to install it, you just literally do the npm install in a normal way. In your project, you would require RethinkDB. It sort of seems traditional or whatever to call it R, as R means RethinkDB. And then, for example, to create a table, you literally do, your normal r.table create. The language is quite, it's quite obvious. And you get a callback, you pass in a connection, you get a callback when it's completed. So you can create tables, and then probably easier to show you the r.table line, the fourth line down. Sorry, the third line down, r.table creates, meant to say table, sorry, I beg your pardon. To query a table, you literally just say r.table and the name of the table, and it gives you back all the data in the table. If you want to get one of your documents by its ID, you would do a .get, and if you want to filter, you can pass in the specifications you want to filter on. But then the last thing that gets really interesting is the changes. You literally can add the word .changes to nearly every, not all, but nearly all queries, and they suddenly become what I call live. And here we go. So I've read in Oracle you've got, and Postgres you've got ways of getting notifications when things change. And when you read the documentation, they sort of say things like, we don't expect many subscribers to these things because it's quite heavy, and we wouldn't expect you to have hundreds of listeners to your database changes. We suggest you have one or two and then publish it out to sort of a pub sub environment or whatever. The documentation for RethinkDB sort of talks about it very differently. We want subscribers, and we would expect to have tens of thousands of subscribers hitting alive at any one time, listening to changes to their queries. But what's interesting is the queries they're listening to are not the same. You don't just have one thing saying, tell me when something changes. I could be saying, tell me when the pizzas arrive, and you could be telling me something about when the doors close, or whatever the examples is. You will get changes to what you're interested in. So in Node, that is an example there of literally inserting a row into a table. That's using promises. It supports both sort of traditional callback and promises constructs. It's quite familiar to people, I think, you'll find. And to do the same thing with the changes, where I say I want to read the real-time notes table, and I want to get changes back, and then I get a cursor back from it, and for each time I get, each time there is a change, I then emit down my socket, my web socket, the data that I want to send down. So I've got a little demo, and we can play along here if you want to in a second, but it's on GitHub, and it's just I tried to write the most simple. I didn't do that in 20 minutes tonight, but I did that before. But it didn't take me a very long time, actually, because what's nice is RethinkDB is taking away a whole load of things I've got to worry about out of the way. I don't know how it will scale in a massive, massive production environment, but certainly to get something up and running where you've got a database and you have push data, it really is very, very easy. So I've written a little mini post-it application, and we can go and have a look at it. I knew I was going to have a problem with the screen if you're not going to be able to see any of this. So if you add a post-it and say, I don't know, hello, and then create it, it creates the post-it there, and you can move it around, whatever. But what's more interesting is if you will do it. So if you've got a mobile or you're on the web, if you want to go to this bit.ly link, bit.ly LNUG 230316. And we may or may not see. Sorry, beg your pardon, go back to it. Bit.ly LNUG 230316. Has anyone managed to get it?
Yeah, whoa, I think so.
So, yeah, right now I'm there, and you can see there that's going, and if I load up their web interface.
It's not mobile first.
Come on.
20 minutes, come on.
So in the right-hand page, that's the sort of the output from their console. And as you literally, if you drag messages around, I'm updating the database to change the coordinates, you're adding notes, deleting notes, whatever. And actually, that's probably the most users I've ever had running in a RethinkDB at the same time. So, and it hasn't crashed yet, running on a little box at home. So that's quite interesting. The code for that server, which is just a node server, using the really cool socket.io, which is really nice. It is a page and a half of code. And if you want to look at it, it's on GitHub. It really is. There's so little code that you have to worry about in what is a simple application, but does a little bit of stuff there. So that was my very, very quick talk through RethinkDB. And if you've got any questions, I'll try and answer them.
There it is.
Somebody actually.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a hardened production thing. Anyone got any questions? Or? Do
you have any questions? There's always someone.
How would you compare it to something like Redis, where you can also do quite a lot of subscribe?
Okay, I haven't used Redis. I haven't myself used Redis. So the question is, how would you compare it to Redis? Which I thought was much more of a sort of a publish-subscribe thing. This is a database that has publish and subscribe in it. So I know we didn't talk a lot about the database here, but it's got all the normal stuff you would expect, writing queries and filtering, whatever. As I said, I haven't used Redis, so does anyone else know how Redis would compare to that?
Well, I guess with Redis you wouldn't get a query language, and also the fact that it wouldn't really, push notifications like the RethinkDB is doing right now. Because if you're a PubSub channel, you have to actively listen to it because you're using it as a message queue in some ways.
Sorry, I don't know about that. Okay.
Brilliant.
Well,
Big round of applause. So we're catching up on time actually, we're doing alright. Okay, so look, let's jump straight to the next segment then. So we're going to do community announcements now. So I said earlier, really quickly, is anybody looking to hire? Is anyone looking to hire at the minute?
What? No, I am. Yeah, well. Hello. Right, I'm a full stack dev at Tito. We're building the next generation of sheet music, and I'm looking for another full stack dev to question everything that I'm doing. So I want someone who's going to ask questions, come up with ideas. We're really using nodes with CAPI, with at the minute MySQL, but we're looking at moving to DynamoDB. So moving to like event streams off the back of that, and maybe Lambda, which would be cool. And then we've got the usual cool stuff, React, Redux on the front. So yeah, give me a shout.
How?
I'm Clarky on Twitter, might be best, or Clarky on GitHub, or andy.clark@tito-music.com. That's a bit too long.
Or come and say,
say
hello to you.
Yeah, it's probably easier. Or talk to Sil, he's also there. Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else looking to pick anyone on hiring at the minute? Come on then. Go for it.
Hello. There's a few of us here. We work at Pebble Code. We're based in Vauxhall, and we're kind of like an agency, consultancy, and we work with lots of cool companies doing interesting things. I'm working on a Bluetooth low energy app at the moment, and we've got this big physical thing in the office that you can control. And yeah, we're doing all sorts of stuff with all the cool tech, and we're always hiring, always looking for good people. So yeah, get in touch, pebblecode.com, pebblecode on Twitter, etc. Or see us afterwards. Cheers.
Superb. Thanks for that. Anybody else looking to hire? Come on.
Hello, I'm from Deloitte Digital, another not so small consultancy, but we're looking to hire front-end developers, not full stack, looking for good people with JavaScript skills. Recently we worked on a few projects for banking and insurance with Riak, and that's quite cutting-edge stuff. So, come and talk to me, be interested.
So what's the name of the company?
Deloitte Digital.
Deloitte Digital.
Okay, cool. So he's hello, come on. Oh, yes,
Is there really bits of it? Yeah. I got it.
Sorry about the year. So I'm from Everything. Everything is a company that maybe we should present one day here. Actually, we collect all kind of products, IoT products for big brands like iHome, lighting products, home automation products for brands that don't want to do it themselves. And a large part of our stack is written in Node, the front end in JavaScript, so we're always open doors for Node and front end JavaScript developers.
Perfect. How do we get in touch with you?
The company is called Everything. However, you have to remove a number of the letters. So all the boils, but the first one.
So is that the first test of the interview?
Spell it.
Awesome. All right. So is anybody available to be hired? Has anyone just graduated? Oh, there we go. That was easy.
What do I do?
Say hello.
I'm looking for a job. Recently become available. I'm a full stack developer. I lean towards the back end. I'm looking for something exciting. I'm probably going to talk to somebody who just spoke. Maybe him as well. Come and grab me. I can tell you more about myself, what I do, what I offer.
How do people find you?
Come and talk to me first of all, or aidlynch@gmail.com. But come and talk to me, it's easier. Or ask somebody, ask him who can ask him who knows how to get hold of me. Cool.
So a good thing as well is everyone who's sort of said hello and posted bits and pieces, just drop your details into the Git channel. That's probably a good way as well. So anyone else have we got any graduates from makers in here, or founders and coders, or anything like that? Anybody looking to get hired? All right, cool. So okay, let's move on to the projects then. So is anybody working on any cool projects that they want to get some feedback on? So it could be that you've got an open source project that you're just wanting to get some testing on, or you just want to know if it's a good idea. You might want some help coding it or designing it, whatever. Such as?
I'm a scientist and I'm using Node.js to handle genomic data, so DNA. And I have founded an open source project called Bionode, bionode.io. And we are looking for a Google Summer of Code student for this summer. So Google will pay a stipend of $5,000, I think, for someone to do a project with us. And the mentors will be Max Holden and Matthias Busch, which are top contributors to the Node.js community. And there's also a startup in Cambridge called repositive.io that is going to use Bionode for some stuff, and they're currently hiring, and their backend is Node.js and frontend is Ember. So if anyone is interested, come talk to me.
Same thing, post details in the Git channel.
Yep.
Comes to make contact in person. Alright, so well, I don't know what's going on here, actually. I'll just refresh this. So okay, so there's something not quite going right here with the picture, but look, on May the 11th, we're going to run NoConf in London. So currently, so I tell you, go visit that URL on your mobiles, and you'll see the real site, not the one that's being butchered at the minute. And then what we've got going on at the minute, we've currently got a call for speakers open. So if you fancy doing a talk at a big old No conference, then let us know. You know, like we're with the CFP's open to. Well, the CFP closes a week on Friday, and we definitely want to hear what's going on. We'll pay you, which is always quite nice, and then we'll just come and speak to us. So there's lots of stuff going on. Please have a look at that website on your phones, on your laptops. I'm going to give it one more go. Did it work? Ooh, it's better. And then we have things like this. Beautiful, beautiful website. All right, okay, cool. So, does anyone have any other projects that they want to highlight or bring? Come and say hello.
Right, so can I plug this in? We were worried about, annoyed that npm installs took so long to install, and I was thinking, well, you're probably installing too many packages. So I thought there'd be quite a fun way to demonstrate how you're probably installing too many packages, and also entertain you while you're waiting for them to install. So hopefully, if this works. Oh, can you see this?
Yeah.
So you can see all the different package waves, and you're basically playing Space Invaders.
Oh, nice.
Shooting them down. I'm not sure if the lights are good enough there.
The score's 26. You're doing good.
Oh, yeah.
You're still in the game.
You see? And yeah. I think we might need to turn the lights off actually. So you can see how long it's taking to install up at the top right. And hopefully you can see which packages are taking a long time to install, because you see loads of them coming in. And yeah, it kind of highlights that you're probably installing too many packages. But
keep
also
going. Oh, yeah!
So yeah, and I'll just try and die now. There we go. So if you don't manage to complete it, none of your packages are installed.
Go on then, let's get the lights up. Awesome, well done.
That's us done, yep. Cheers.
Yeah. I want to know if that's still recording. It is. Gutted. Hey, look, it's just happened today, I know. It might be because it's going through filters. Or yeah.
The flight back's economy. Oh, that's the wrong way. I know. That's the wrong way.
Gutted about that side.
It's fine. I've already asked my first question.
Have you really?
Yeah. I've got enough points to.
I land back in London at 7 AM the next day, and then 3 hours later I'm on a flight to Berlin, and then an hour after that I'm on a flight to Cologne.
Anyone told you you're in
Mike?
Yes.
Oh, Mike, time.
Does anybody say that?
No, you can go for it.
If there's no one sat there, yoink.
I mean, I feel rude.
You're on mute with me. No. So Simon was sat there, but he had to go. Okay. So you're all good.
Just tell me when to take myself off mute.
Yeah, well, it'll be the round of applause that cues that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already playing.
It's fine, but I've just remembered I must prance onto stage.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to? That's nice.
Can't find any more. They've stopped.
Have recreated it. Can't get that recreated.
No, it's copyrighted from GitHub. I'm not going to do that to GitHub.
Oh, fine. That's nice.
I know. But you can tell I may use my right enough because that's rubbing off, and that's where my other wrist is all the time.
Yeah.
I do room for a new note.
You get one of these t-shirts.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
That's rather excellent.
But we've only got small medium. I'm assuming. Oh, put it on the thing.
Sushi JS. Can I make myself in town?
Next Wednesday night. Yeah.
In general, the only thing I follow on Twitter, I think, so that means whatever drama happens, no, like they have the comp, which is, I think, actually I don't know who runs it. I guess they had someone who was advocating slavery. Seems like a bad choice. They're organizing a contract with them out.
Alright, so let's take our seats then for the final speaker. You about ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you good? Do you want to say hello for the... just unmute it, give me a quick sound check.
It's my
Say hello.
I've got to grab out my mum. Didn't think I'd ever say that. Hello. Am I not getting louder?
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so, well, let's give a massive round of applause for for our final speaker of the evening.
There we go. Right. After a NoSQL talk, NoSQL is a lie. So, I work for a rather large company. Here's a legal disclaimer that says I can talk shite and I don't have to care about what your opinions are afterwards. So, who am I? I am Mike Elsmore. I'm developer advocate. Well, so yeah, there's the details. So, I work here at IBM Cloud Data Services and I work with or around all this stuff every day. So, databases and analytics packages, all we do is we operationalize open source databases and release them into the wild. That one's CouchDB, and actually that's not a database, but technically I work with that. So there. Right, my day, like most of yours, usually starts like this. Around lunchtime ends up a bit like this. And if I don't end up like this by the end of the day, something's gone wrong. I'm going to start off by admitting I am not an expert in what I'm going to talk about. I just tinker with all this stuff. I just happen to be tinkering a lot with it. Claiming to be an expert would be a bad decision because there will be plenty of people in this room who know more and will tell me off. So, with a mildly controversial title comes a small rant. So, this actually does get me a little angry. Really, really quite angry. So, we have no SQL. And then we have this horrible, horrible theory that it's just a catch-all. So, if it's SQL, SQL. If not, it's no SQL. That's really, really stupid. There's also that horrible not SQL backronym. Just because somebody invented this wonderful term that went viral on the internet like Web 2.0 and Mongo is web scalable, doesn't actually mean diddly squit. This came in after the technologies for bad people who wanted to use terms to describe it. Even worse, you have SQL on NoSQL. So who here has heard of CQL on Cassandra? Sparkle, which has been around for flipping decades as part of projects like Jenna. And Couchbase is proprietary, but it's NoSQL, and they released an actual SQL interpreter for it. So SQL on NoSQL. I think that's a lie. There's also this wonderful thing. NoSQL databases are schemaless. They'll accept anything you put in there, in whatever format it takes, so BSON, JSON, etc. That's a complete lie, because as a developer, you put a schema on there because what you put in, you need to know what you're getting out. If you put everything in there that you have no idea, why are you using a database? You're not going to know what to look for. It's true. Now, this one's the one that really, really, really gets my goat. There are no such things as NoSQL experts. There is over 5 primary primary database types. There is all sorts of ones that cross over. So you do have key value and document stores, and they're all mixed pieces of technology that work together. But there are no experts. So if you do claim to be an expert, please follow the GIF. Oh man.
Is that the expert GIF?
That's epic fail.
You can see all the experts on one screen.
That would work. And now, oh damn it! And now I've just clicked reload, and it's not. There we go. That's what it should have said. Right. So you can be expert. You can be an expert in the technology of your choice, but you can't be an expert in all of them. It's like me saying, I'm an expert in Node, Ruby, Java, Python, PHP, C, C++. Yeah, all of them. You're not going to be an expert in all of them. You're going to be an expert in a subset of these things. So that's the end of my rant. Time to cool down. Calmer. Ooh, sigh. Right, so I'm going to drop some science on this stuff so it makes a bit more sense. Who's here heard of CAP Theorem? Yay! Means I don't have to explain everything, just some of things. Right, CAP Theorem stands for Consistency, Availability, and Partition Tolerance. Kind of where the CAP bits come from. It's otherwise known as Bowker's Law if you're curious about the inventor's name who actually got slapped onto it. Consistency stands for what you put in is what you get out. So if you put a value of 1 in, you get a value of 1 out, 2 in, 2 out, etc., etc. It's kind of self-explanatory. Availability. Well, that's kind of self-explanatory of it as well. If you put stuff in there, it's going to be available to pull back out afterwards. And then there's partition tolerance. This actually means it survives network failure, so the system continues to work when part of the cluster goes away. I prefer to think of it as the system actually knows where it's safe to bloody data. So that's where the graph is. Just to make a point, that bit in the middle is theoretically impossible. There are new data types under a thing called NewSQL, which is the Spanner paper from Google, which are getting around this by using some ridiculous maths. But there's nothing in production yet that can do it. So this bit still is invisible, and I would point at the middle bit over there, but laser pointer to... Oh no, laser point somewhere in the middle over there. Doesn't exist. So essentially you've got trade-offs. You can only pick 2 if you're going to be working in a distributed system, which if you're going to be building any form of modern system, you're going to probably be building it distributed anyway. So I prefer to think of this as sort of like the uncertainty principle. You can know where it's going or how fast it is, but not both at the same time. I think that's the layman's explanation of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Can't remember off the top of my head. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me I'm wrong. Oh yeah, FYI, there's an open heckle policy. Go on. Wow, nobody decided to dive on that. I'm surprised.
A vector of velocity rather than
Thank you. I'm okay with that. Okay, that took it too far. Right. So there we go. And why is this important? Well, there's a little bit of history about this. Who has been developing for more than 5 years? Right, so some of these things are going to sound very familiar to you, and we're all going to sit there and groan for a few moments. Consistency and availability, so you didn't even need to consider partition tolerance. Well, you skip that by, you put something on a big box, it stayed on the big box. When you run out of space, you put it on a bigger box and hope the bigger box didn't fill up quickly, and eventually you just had to go and buy a bigger box and hope that carried on working. It's kind of like how most MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, anything produced pre-2005 kind of worked. Thank God for commodity hardware and learning, yes, distributed systems can be done in a relatively fast network system. So, that changed with the introduction of commodity hardware. I forgot I put that slide in already. Right, so with the introduction of distributed systems and databases on low network latency, allows you to carry on and not have to consider that. But that still means you then need to know what machine your information is on. Yeah, that's a little awkward when you don't. So you can be partition tolerant and consistent or available. I even counted that as the correct number of dashes for consistent or available. So if you're going to be building a system, you either have to build it in a CP or an AP system. Most databases have gone for the AP system because if your database suddenly disappears, then your entire app is a load of junk, usually. There are some other ones where things like Couchbase went for a consistency model, so they kept as much stuff in memory as possible, which works perfectly for their use cases. So, design decisions, I've just gone over that slide again. Really should check ahead for my slides, or load up my slide speaker notes again, which I'm not going to. So why most of them are like that? So you need to be partition tolerant. You know you're in a distributed system, you need to know where it's going. So you can either be available for your clients or consistent for the information they're pulling out. One or the other, not both. So, types. Primary ones, key value, document, column or columnar or wide column, depending on which definition you're looking at the time, but roughly they're in the same family. Graph. Ah, yeah. There's another one on there called multi-model, and that's the one I'm trying to avoid because it kind of defeats the object of talking about types when you're talking about stuff that's a Swiss Army knife database. It's like people, nowadays, Postgres can do everything, essentially, if you tune it and build it correctly, but you shouldn't, probably, depending on your use case. Like everybody who says, Mongo can do everything, you're wrong. So, there are other types, as just said, so object, tabular, all those different ones. I should really start checking my slides ahead, damn it. So, first up, key value stores. Anyone name any of these things? Redis, good one. Any older ones? No.
CouchDB.
DynaDB? That's technically, no. Dynamo's technically document store and key value, depending on your use case. There's also good old-fashioned Memcached. Yes, that classifies as a key value store. I didn't realise that until relatively recently, but that still actually classifies.
LevelDB?
LevelDB, no, that's a document database just written in Node. So yeah, and I forgot Riak down there, the one by the Basho company with the lovely sumo head logo. I love that logo. So use cases, usually just pub/sub stuff, so sessions. I did recently start experimenting with using Redis for queues instead of Rabbit. That's actually quite useful. Just means I can be really, really lazy and I only have to stand up one Docker instance on my machine rather than two to do the same job. And considering I'm on a bloody MacBook Air, kind of memory intensive is good. Right, so what does a key value store? It's kind of in the name. It's a key and it's a value. You look at something that's a key and it gives you the value. That's kind of how it works. There are some more complex algorithms that they use. There are 3 primary search types on top of Redis. I think it's 3, 2 or 3. So you can just index, but it's still essentially, it's like a hash, a dictionary or anything else. It's a key, it's a value. It's quite simple. Why use them? Sessions, queuing. Anyone else got any relatively good use cases so I can try and remember them for later? So, document databases. Can anyone name any of these? Nobody's going to bite that bullet after I say no to people in the room. CouchDB. Dynamo. Yes. Mongo. Rethink. So, Cloudant. They pay me to be here, so I have to include them somewhere in my slide deck. Kind of how it works. CouchDB, which is what Cloudant is based off. Mongo and Rethink. I forgot the DB on the end. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh.
You know, massive grammatical mistake. Sorry. So, what is a document database used for? Most use cases are as your standard operational data store, so just being able to keep large metadata-based documents in there. You know, user data, product data, all that gumph. So, why you would use them. operational data store where you put your users and your other data and all that gumph. I should really remember to check my slides before I do this thing. Column databases. Anyone have any of those?
Oracle,
Cassandra. Oracle does count nowadays for some reason, but yeah. It's not technically a NoSQL columnar, but it is a columnar. Columnar. I will be able to say that word one day. So yeah, Cassandra, HBase, and the Cumulo. I haven't actually played with that one. Has anyone played with the Cumulo? Damn it, I want to find some actual reasons to use it. I can't think of a bloody reason because I've got Cassandra. But right, so what is it? White column formats. Essentially, you do look at it and use it as if it is an SQL table. The difference is you can just expand the fields in there dynamically. It's pretty much how most of the basic theory of using a columnar database. Columnar. Jesus. Columnar database is. Why would you use it? A lot of use cases for things like Cassandra is time series information because they have the vector timestamp stuff to be able to series stuff. Useful SQL stuff, so being able to migrate from MariaDB to Cassandra because then you can use CQL on top of it, things like that. Or just a workhorse database like you'd use any other operational database. Ta-da! Or if you're doing massively distributed stuff because the gossip chat between all of them is amazing, even though it does go haywire every so often if you don't have a sysadmin who knows what they're doing. It's kind of nuts. So, graph databases. This is my personal favourite thing at the moment because they do ridiculously weird things in really, really complex ways, and it's fun. And when they break, you have no idea what's going on. Can anyone name any graph data systems?
Orient.
Orient, yeah.
Orango.
What?
Orango.
Titan.
Pardon?
Titan.
Titan technically is a database engine, to be precise. You require to then use something like Tinkerpop on top to apply a full stack system onto it. There's also things like BerkeleyDB and other weird ass ones.
Sparrow, Flight, Flow, the Twitter one.
FlockDB. There's also Giraffe and all sorts of gumph. I like that word, gumph. So, there we go, TitanDB. I've listed it there because oddly enough Tinkerpop is too large to include Tinkerpop with TitanDB as the underlying data engine. So, Titan. Neo4j and Giraffe. Anyone here actually been using Neo4j? I'd like to pick your brains at the end. Thanks for volunteering. So, why would you use this stuff? Well, what is a graph data store? A graph data store means storing stuff as nodes and edges rather than as records or documents. Essentially, you can have ridiculously large interconnected data sources which are easily traversable traditionally from an in-memory system. I.e. you take a giant index of it, you reduce it down, then you traverse all over the place, which is kind of really cool, but occasionally means you have no idea what's going on, and you can ridiculously simply create cyclical path errors, which then break everything, which is where it gets fun, because then you try debugging it and reading the stack, and you have no idea what's going on, because you've got some bits in Node, some bits in Clojure, and some bits in Java, and you don't know how they all plug together. That's if you're me anyway. So, why would you use these things? Ridiculously complex things. So, social networks, which actually aren't that complex, they're just really popular right now. Woo, social networks. Recommendation engines, fraud detection, anything which requires ridiculously complex SQL queries, which you'd normally be merging back onto each other in join tables, which then fill up memory and your entire cluster fall over. Breathe. So yeah, that's why you'd use them. And after I'm a little exhausted after saying all that, and that may have been a lot of information, but it's cool because I'm almost finished. I've had one beer and I think that may have been too much. Columnar. Right. So, what have we learned in my ridiculously rushed through version of this because I'm mildly panicked? NoSQL is a lie. Who would agree with me with that statement? Really, nobody. I'll take that. So, we know why this stuff grew up as the way it did. We also realise that these damn things are different tools for different jobs. If you're throwing Mongo at every problem, you're probably doing it wrong. If you're throwing Postgres at every problem, you're doing it wrong. Rethink, you're doing it wrong. Couch, you're doing it wrong. Everything, you're doing it wrong. The whole point of things like microservice architecture is you pick the right language, the right tool, and the right system to do the job, but it is the same with your databases. So if you're trying to do large query types, then you should probably think about using Graph or a large SQL service. If you're trying to do quick operational lookups, Mongo, Rethink, Couch, Cassandra, all this stuff underneath. So pick the right tool for the job rather than just go, my toolbox is Node and Postgres. Done. So picking the right tool means you'll go in the right direction, otherwise you're just going to be spinning and doing nothing. But if you do it right, things look kind of good. And I'm not clicking up. Oh. May have accidentally deleted the last slide. I forgot about that before. Damn it. The last slide should have said questions. No, seriously, that's questions.
No, so how do you, if you've got a project, where do you start saying, well, this sort of data, or what are good rules of thumb maybe at the start, or where's to look for good rules of thumb?
That's a good and also awkward question. Because you can't know everything unless you've tried it, of course. But there is an easy way of thinking about it. Are you going to be running large batch process jobs? Don't probably want to be doing that on an operational data store. You're probably wanting to run that on a data warehouse instead. So a BI system, you separate them out. That way you can then easily run something like Hadoop, or you can run something quite simply like a secondary service. Braintree, if I remember correctly, run 2 Postgreses. What they do is they have Kafka in the front that keeps piping all the writes in. One is treated as a giant BI system, the other one is treated as a live operational store, so you can still do all the transactions without locking it once you do a full table scan. But it's the same as picking out with all the individual technology. You should probably look at the crib sheets. Yes, most of it's full of marketing guns because we all know what these websites are like. Yes, we can do everything. No, you can't. It's probably a bit like that. So if you know you're going to be using large data, then you probably don't want to think about having to like denormalize that to the point where you have massive fat 10 meg docs which represent a single user. You probably do want to be using an SQL system. However, if you're doing something like a mobile game, you're probably going to be using really small documents, really small packages. So throwing something at CouchDB where you can actually just sync between the devices is probably a more sensible approach. So it's a case of, as with everything, research and play.
Sure.
And break it.
Brilliant. Thanks.
That was a really open and really stupid answer, I'm sorry.
IBM probably has a lot of money for supporting lots of databases with lots of sysadmins and DBAs.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for coverage of being able to do different kinds of things, are there 2 main types that you might consider combining as opposed to having to support all 4 major types?
Whoa, there we go. Really. There we go. Ah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't have that many DBAs.
Right, quite simply, there's always the option of debassing it. Ta-da, we sell debass. IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, DBAS. Database as a service. All this crap is what we sell to you wholesale. But yes, but there are still certain, key skill sets that translate across all of them. For example, the moment you've been working in distributed system with something like CouchDB, you're pretty good at maintaining gossip protocols and intercommunication between nodes, at which point that would easily translate over to something like Cassandra. You just change the toolchain which you're using. But if you want to pick a couple of them which are your primary go-to tools, you'd want one operational one, which is traditionally a document store, preferably something with more than one index type on there. So you'd be looking at, say, Cassandra or CouchDB or even Mongo and Rethink. Essentially, Rethink, just as an FYI for history point, is they decided Mongo was good, but they wanted to rewrite the engine. So technically the changes feed is a deltas feed from Mongo, but renamed for whatever reason. So you want something like that where it's got multiple query types, so you can adjust it to whatever you're doing in your application, so key value / more complex queries, obviously. And you probably want something that's lightning fast, so you're probably thinking something along the lines of Redis to act as an intermediary cache, or to do simple querying at lightning speed. Done. I'm waiting for somebody else to come up with a really arsehole-ish hard question for me to try and answer.
Go on, let's get it. Let's
What's your favourite?
What's my favourite? because it's based on Tinkerpot FreeStack, and I've been working like a bastard to build the Node API on top of that. So it's like, I'm playing with really complex things, but I'm doing it in a really stupid language like JavaScript.
Have you seen Kaylee?
Pardon?
Have you seen Kaylee? Which
No.
is Google's graph database built on top of Postgres.
Yes, I have seen that.
Bob, if you're thirsty. Don't know. Anyway, right. So, you know, there's a big team that puts this event together. So, big thanks to everyone there. Please go check them out again. Say thanks to them. They do a lot of work behind the scenes. It just isn't possible without them, you know. What else? Can you? Oh, the next time will be the 4th Wednesday of the month again. So it'll be the 27th of April. The tickets are live. So if you go to April 2016, you can go grab your tickets. And then with that, essentially, can you help us put the chairs away, put stuff in the bins, make sure the bottles are done. Generally help us just put the room back to a sensible state. Make sure you visit the sponsors' websites because they have a massive part of this. And we're going to go to the Cold Pepper. There you go. We're going to go to the Cold Pepper, which is basically down the stairs, turn left, and it's the first pub you're going to get to. So let's we'll pick it all up there. Thank you very much, guys. Oh, small, medium, or large. Speak to that man there in the stripy hoodie.
But yeah, no, I know. Oh, I remember Hackford's one when I just shouted. Yes, yeah.
I remember Hackford's one.
We all remember you at Hackford's one. That was my problem. When
you all loved me for it.
No,
Yes, it is.
Your one problem. Brilliant. Right, let me get all this back. Okay, so do you want to quickly let me turn some of this off. Oh no, it's right. It's up to you with this. It's good to talk to you. I know.